Ich möchte ganz, ganz herzlich meine Parteikollegin aus Kanada begrüßen, die Parteivorsitzende Kollegin Elizabeth May. Die lauscht schon seit heute Morgen unserer Debatte. Sie ist seit 2016 Parteivorsitzende der kanadischen Grünen, ist einzige Abgeordnete im kanadischen Unterhaus, kämpft dort für die als grüne Stimme für Klimaschutz, für den Erhalt der Natur, gegen die Exploration der Natur, vor allen Dingen gegen die Ausbeutung durch Rohstoffexploratorien, also durch den Erdöl-Erdgasabbau, den wir dort erleben, riesige Eingriffe in die Natur. Und es war ein ganz großer Erfolg, dass nicht nur sie 2015 wieder bestätigt wurde als Abgeordnete für das Unterhaus, sondern dass in British Columbia jetzt die Grünen bei der Wahl 17% erzielt haben und damit einen ganz zentralen Einfluss auf die Rohstoff- und Energiepolitik in dieser Region in Kanada haben. Ich freue mich sehr, Elizabeth, du bist eine ganz wichtige Streiterin für uns im Kampf für den Klimaschutz und vor allen Dingen darin, CETA zu stoppen. Wir freuen uns sehr auf deine Rede. Herzlich willkommen.
Dankeschön, Simone. I am so happy to be here. Honored to be here as you prepare for the next all-important election, to be with part of the Green family, our global original Green family here in Germany, is a huge honor for me. And although I'm embarrassed not to speak German, I'm pretty sure Simona just told you about the success in the British Columbia election, with 17% of the vote in our third most populous province of 4.5 million people, where we now hold the balance of power going forward to provide support and confidence votes. We're not joining a coalition in British Columbia, but we are determining the agenda of government in British Columbia. So I'll tell you right away why I accepted the invitation to come, because I have my own agenda. I'm here as the sole Green Member of Parliament from our federal parliament, where we have the same awful system of voting that poor Carolyn Lucas and the UK and Wales Green Party faces the same problems. But as one Green MP, I voted no when our Parliament considered the Canada-EU Comprehensive Economic Trade Agreement, CETA. But Canada's Parliament has now ratified CETA, and I'm here to beg you to help us, and still, it is not too late to stop CETA, and for that, we need your help. So why? Why does it matter so much that we stop CETA? I was thinking about it, and I've been involved in the environmental movement and the green movement a very long time. So it almost surprised me to realize it has been 30 years since the Brundtland Commission, the World Commission on Environment and Development, Our Common Future, opened with these words: "The earth is one, but the world is not." So we favor internationalism as Greens. We have principles and values that are embedded in working together. We have principles and values that want us to see greater collaboration, greater internationalism, greater multilateralism. But we understand the very sharp distinction between those values and principles and globalization. Internationalism works towards the common good of the entire human family and a living, healthy biosphere. Globalization works for private wealth. There is a huge gap between internationalism and globalization. Globalization is a product of the neoliberal agenda of Margaret Thatcher and Ronald Reagan that preached a dogma of smaller government, deregulation, privatization, and trade liberalization. An economic strategy that has manifestly failed by increasing the gap between the richest and the poorest. It has failed, empirically failed, as I'll just reference Joseph Stiglitz, Nobel Prize-winning economist, as he can tell you empirically how it has failed, because I only have 5 minutes. We know that within these trade agreements has been embedded since 1994 in NAFTA, has been embedded a concept that has nothing to do with trade. We support free and fair trade. We support the movement of ideas and people and goods in ways that are fair and ethical. But embedded in these trade agreements is this horror that has nothing to do with trade. They have a bland name. I think the words are designed to put everyone to sleep. Investor-state agreements. Now, an investor sounds like a good idea. State sounds like a good idea. But these agreements do not promote investment, nor do they enhance trade. What they do is give foreign corporations superior rights to domestic companies. If they had been called foreign corporations have superior rights to domestic corporation agreements, I don't think we'd see 3,200 of them executed in the last 20 years. Or if they were called foreign corporate rights will erode democracy. Woohoo! I don't think we would have seen them become so standardized, so normalized within the world of trade. Now, in CETA, you have the Trojan horse to bring more of these agreements into the European Union. I'm desperate to see them stop, not just to stop CETA, but to roll back all the ones that are already negotiated, like Chapter 11 of NAFTA or the Canada-China Investment Treaty, and for us as Greens globally to work to replace them with a template agreement that actually enhances corporate responsibilities before they get new rights. If I had an hour, I could tell you the long and unhappy story of Canadian laws that have been repealed, of Canadian projects that were unsafe and later found to violate the quote-unquote investors' rights, to reduce the expectation of profits of a foreign corporation, even when there's no trade motive, even when there's no question of national treatment. Just because a foreign corporation expects its profits, if your government at the state level, municipal level, or federal level changes a law, you can be before an arbitration panel. We have lost case after case in Canada. Now, the reality is, it's true that the CETA agreement includes additional provisions that make it, as a process, better than NAFTA. You have an investment court in CETA, and they say that makes it great. You have additional rules to make sure that the arbitrators aren't making personal profit out of every case they take on. But the reality of it, the core essence that makes these provisions fundamentally corrosive to democracies everywhere is still there. The whole point is that foreign corporations can bring arbitration cases against governments that reduce their expectation of profits. I take note, and I'm sure you've all noticed this, I'm going to try to pronounce this, but the Deutsche Richterbund, the German Association of Judges, 16,000 jurists and prosecutors oppose CETA because they see no justification for creating a separate investment court. Your German judges and prosecutors are right when they say, quote, there is neither a legal basis nor a necessity for a different court. They say, quote, special courts for certain groups are the wrong way, unquote. We must not allow CETA to go forward. And in this election, you give your voters a chance, you give us hope in Canada that we can renegotiate this. That's my message to you from Canada, is that most Canadians don't want to see more global trade agreements that erode domestic rights, erode what we do in our parliaments. We want to be in that place where we can say the earth is one and the world is adopting practices to make us one. And I know that as we say this, we do not ever want to be put in the same camp with, well, I'll say it. We do not want to be in the same camp with Donald Trump, who for xenophobic, racist, anti-democratic, protectionist, and isolationist reasons says he wants to take apart trade agreements. But he does not want to take apart global corporate rule. So we must keep our eyes focused on what we need to do as Greens. We are embedded in all our principles and values in grassroots democracy. We're embedded in all our principles and values in social justice. We're embedded in all our principles and values in a sustainable, livable biosphere where there are human rights, where we welcome refugees, where we don't close our doors, and where we don't build walls. With every election where Greens do well, we give hope and oxygen to all those movements around the world that need us. So while Germany needs the Green Party and needs the Green Party to do well in the next fall elections, the world needs the Green Party of Germany to do well in the next elections. We're rooting for you. We are one movement, one family. Together we can eliminate those agreements which are all about giving power to the powerful and more money to the moneyed. We can put in place those agreements that protect the marginalized, the disadvantaged, and work for the kind of trade deals that elevate all the human family through fairness and justice. Thank you. Dankeschön.